natin, audio, video. Ayan, so hintay ko lang na mag-respond yung sa team natin. So parang napuputol-putol po ata. Ayan. Okay lang ba yung audio natin and video? Ayan. So ayan, okay, goods naman daw. Ayan. So ayan, so for tonight, we will be discussing one of the topics na medyo maraming natatakot or medyo maraming hindi ganun ka-confident, ano. Ayan. So siguro probably because of the changes recently made on these standards. Ayan. Pero kung sa tutuusin, nabawasan no yung aaralin natin. Okay, kasi sa leases, 'di ba dati, ano yan both books ng lessee and lessor, pareho po silang may operating leases at saka finance leases. Okay? Kaya lang, 'di ba, pagka books of lessee na ngayon, okay, around 99% ng concepts ayan, pang finance lease na. So mas okay na to compared before. Okay? So ayan, so sige, so simulan natin. So leases, books of lessee. Ayan, so for leases, book of lessee, okay, so define natin what is a contract of lease. So anong sabi ng IFRS 16 for the governing standards? A lease is a contract or part of a contract that conveys the right to use an asset, okay, which is termed as the underlying asset per IFRS 16 for a period of time in exchange for consideration. So from this definition, okay, let us give no yung mga key elements niyan. So syempre there would be parties in a contract of lease. So sino po yan? Yung lessor and yung lessee. Okay, lessor siya yung nagpapaupa, lessee, okay, na-account natin ngayon, siya naman yung nangungupahan. Okay? And then, okay, ano ang main characteristic ng lease? Okay, kumbaga, ano yung main element dito? Dapat merong okay, the contract that conveys the right to use an asset. Ayan, that conveys the right to use an asset. So, for a contract to be classified as a lease, dapat po may transfer ng right to use right to use a particular asset. Okay, which is the underlying asset. So in layman's language, yung ano lang yan, yung lease asset, yung pinapaupahan na asset, no? For a period of time, so that would be the lease term in exchange for consideration. Those would be the lease payments naman. Okay? So from here, okay, ano po yung mga key terms na dapat familiar tayo? So first one would be yung underlying asset. So for the underlying asset, yan, so for the underlying asset, ano-ano po yung mga key concepts dyan? So an asset that is the subject of a lease for which the right to use that asset has been provided by a lessor to a lessee. So ito nga yung lease asset natin in layman's language. No? Okay, so dito, ang key dito, dapat ma-identify itong specific asset being leased out by the lessor to the lessee. Okay, so there's a requirement that the asset must be identified. So, paano po ba na-identify yung asset na yan? So, generally, these assets are explicitly included dun sa lease contract. Okay, so yun yung pinakamabilis. If it is explicitly included in the lease contract. Ang problema lang dyan, paano kung hindi in-specify? Kung hindi explicitly included dun sa lease contract. So, is there another way of indicating kung ano po yung underlying asset? Answer po would be still yes. Ano yan? Pagka nagkaroon naman ng implicit specification. Okay, so it was implicitly specified. Okay, paano siya implicitly specified? Okay, so halimbawa, equipment yan. Kung ano yung dinala niya at commencement date or at the start of the lease contract, yun yung dinalang asset ng lessor to the lessee. Kahit na hindi ni-specify, then that particular asset delivered by the lessor to the lessee would be considered as the underlying asset. Nasusundan? Okay, so yun. So eto, ano naman po yung provision na related sa identifying a lease? Okay, so dito may establish natin na ang main requirement is dapat merong transferring of right to use the particular asset. Okay? So yeah, so at inception of a contract, an entity shall assess whether the contract is or contains a lease. Okay? A contract is or contains a lease if it conveys the right to control the use of an identified asset for a period of time in exchange for a consideration. So, di ba, babalik lang uli siya dun sa konsepto na dapat merong okay, transferring of right to use. Nasusundan yan. And then ano pa, sabi niya, to assess whether a contract conveys the right to control the use of an asset identified asset for a period of time. An entity shall assess whether throughout the period of use the customer has both of the following. So this would be the indicators na merong conveyance no right to use of an identified asset. So una, sabi niya, the right to obtain substantially all of the economic benefits from use of the identified asset. So yung economic benefits that could be generated from the use of the identified asset, kanino mapupunta? Kay lessee. Para masabi mo na-transfer mo yung right to use. Okay? And then, anong pang sabi niya? The right to direct the use of the identified asset. So, kumbaga, kay lessee may discretion kung paano niya gagamitin yung asset, okay? Kung paano mag-generate ng economic benefits from that asset. Nasusundan yon. And then another, hindi siya specified sa standard, no? Pero another indicator na na-transfer yung right to control the use of an asset is if you can prohibit others from obtaining or deriving economic benefits from that asset, then masasabi na meron ka ring right to use the asset or right to control the use of the asset. Nasusundan po. So in addition to this, if you can prohibit other companies or other entities in generating or obtaining economic benefits from the identified asset, then it could indicate na meron kang right to control the use of the identified asset. Nasundan po ba? Next, ano pa? In addition to this, another example pa na binigay ng standard dito would be if the supplier or actually the lessor, diba, has no substantive right to substitute the asset. Ayan. Throughout the lease term or throughout the period of time indicated dun sa lease contract. Okay, dapat wala daw siyang substantive right to substitute. Okay, so halimbawa in practical sa kanya o kaya naman pag pinalitan niya, dapat hindi siya magbe-benefit dun sa pagpapalit or dun sa provision ng substitute dun sa identified asset natin. Nasusundan? So ang key dito dapat ma-identify mo na merong the contract conveys the right to control the use of an identified asset. Okay? And then, in addition to that, furthermore, if the customer has the right to control the use of an identified asset for only a portion of the term of the contract contains a list for that portion of the term. Again, it emphasizes, okay, pagka merong right to control to the use of the asset, okay, up to certain period, yung certain period na yon, nandun yung lease contract mo. Nandun yung lease term mo. Nasundan? Okay, so yan. So ito, nandyan yung details ng ating identifying a lease. Okay? So ngayon, aside from underlying asset, mga key terms pa dyan, syempre yung lease term. Diba? Yung lease term. Kailan po ba nagsisimula at kailan natatapos yan? Diba? So lease term, the non-cancelable period for which a lessee has the right to use an underlying asset plus, tignan mo siya, so yung over the period na nasa contract, okay, plus, tignan mo to, mga additional adjustments if ever, no, dun sa lease term natin. Sabi niya, periods covered by an extension option if exercise of that option by the lessee is reasonably certain. Yan. So, if exercise of that option by the lessee is reasonably certain. So, may option to extend the lease term, okay, if that option is reasonably certain to be exercised by the lessee, then okay, yung additional period na yon idagdag mo na in computing for or in determining the total lease term. Nasusundan? So ano naman siya, no, straightforward naman siya. Parang sasabihin niya rin kung ano yung mga dapat nating i-account. Okay, so napapansin niyo ba yun? Lahat naman ng konsepto sa accounting, diba? Ano naman to at the end of the day, okay, parang ang requirement niya lang, dapat alam mo siya. Ayun. Tapos, kapag alam mo na siya, magiging procedural. Procedural na yung ano natin, yung mga, yung accounting itself. Diba? Kung paano mo i-account yung mga transactions. So, similar with leases, ganun din siya. So, dapat, yung pundasyon natin sa mga concepts, yun yung pagtuunan mo ng pansin. So, di ba, parang ito, yung lease term, Okay, aside dun sa indicated sa contract, pag meron daw option to extend, okay, and that option is reasonably certain to be exercised by the lessee, idagdag mo yon as additional period, okay, dun sa lease term natin. And ano pa? Okay, periods covered by a termination option if the lessee is reasonably certain not to exercise that option. O, syempre, wag mong, ano, di ba, pagka i-exercise niya kasi, dapat reduction. Ito, sabi niya, periods covered by termination option if the lessee is reasonably certain not to exercise that option. Kaya yan? Madali to, right? So, ayun. O, paano po yung mga cancelable? Ayan. Kasi ito, sabi niya, non-cancelable period. O, pagka-cancelable, operating lease mo lang yan. Okay? Yun lang yung normal treatment yan. Sa perspective ng both lessor and lessee, operating lease lang. Ha? Okay, so ang pag-uusapan lang talaga natin dito, yung mga non-cancelable. Yan. So mamaya, i-explain natin kung ano yung operating lease. Ha? Kung paano i-account yun. Okay? Next po. So sa lease term, and then, syempre, di ba, dapat alam natin kailan magsisimula yan. So there are two relevant dates as far as the contract of lease is concerned. Ayan, so paano po yan? So ano yan? So we have your inception date at saka commencement date. So ano ang inception date? Sabi niya, the earlier of the date of a lease agreement and the date of commitment. O wag matatakot, iba to ha, hindi to yung commitment na ayaw ng iba sa atin. Ayan, hindi, biro lang po. Ayan. So, and the date of commitment by the parties to the principal terms and conditions of the lease. So dito, ang key would be they will come into an agreement or they will come into an understanding about the principal terms and conditions of the lease. Okay? And then, commencement, o pinakamadali sa lahat, eto na, dito na yung start na pwede nang gamitin yung underlying asset ng lessee. So, sabi niya, the date on which a lessor makes an underlying asset available for use by a lessee. Is that clear? Okay, so ano pa po yung mga significance nito sa accounting? Ano pa mga significance nito? At inception date, all items that will be eventually recorded later on can now be determined at inception date. So, halimbawa, magre-recognize ka ng asset, alam mo na yan at inception date. Magre-recognize ka ng liability, alam mo na kung magkano i-recognize mo na lease liability. Okay? So, why? Kasi nasa iyo na yung principal terms and conditions na kukuha po. Pero, hindi mo pa siya, hindi pa, yung determination gagawin sa inception date. Pero, at commencement date, ayan, doon pa lang magsisimula yung recording natin. Nasusundan po ba? So, yun yung pagkakaiba ha. Inception date, ayan, determination. Commencement, nandun na yung actual use ng asset, nandun na yung start of recording of transactions. Kaya, ano pa? Another use ng inception date. At inception date, you can already classify leases as to either finance lease or operating lease. Depende kung kaninong libro yung ina-account. Okay? So, ayun. So, pero, syempre kasi, kaya sinasabi na natin na na depende. Okay? Sa lessor kasi, importante pa sa kanya yung finance lease, operating lease. Kay lessee, generally, lang siya, finance lease. Diba? Generally, finance lease nila. Nasusundan? O sige, dahil banggit tayo ng banggit sa finance lease and operating leases, ito pag-usapan na rin natin. Okay? So, for types of leases, ayan, the accounting for a lease is highly dependent to its appropriate classification. Ayan, a lease may be accounted for as a finance lease or operating lease. O minsan makikita mo pa yung mga old term, no? So ito mga standard term sa IAS 17, sa IFRS 16, finance lease or operating lease. Pero may mga nakikita pa tayong problem na ginagamit capital lease. Pag capital lease, finance lease lang po ang ibig sabihin. Nasusundan mo? Okay, so ayan ha. So sabi niya ha, the accounting for leases would be highly dependent on the proper classification of the lease. So kasi iba yung accounting ng finance lease, iba yung accounting ng operating leases. Okay? So ano po ba ang finance lease? Sabi niya, a finance lease is a lease that transfers substantially all the risks and rewards incidental to ownership of an asset. Title may or may not eventually be transferred. Ayan. So dito sa finance lease, magkakaroon ng recognition ng asset sa perspective ng lessee. Okay? And then sa perspective naman ng lessor, dapat may derecognition siya. 'Di ba? So, dun sa lessee, okay, magre-recognize siya ng asset. O, yun na yung popular ngayon na ROU asset or right of use asset. Okay? And then, ayan, sa lessor, okay, sa lessor, ayan, sa perspective niya, pag finance lease, either binenta niya yan or nagpapautang siya. Okay? And then, ayun, ano naman po ang operating lease? Ang operating lease, residual lang yan. Residual lang siya. Okay? If the lease contract cannot be classified as finance lease, yan, operating leases na siya. Ganun lang kasimple, di ba? Residual definition. So sabi nga natin, ito, yung proper classification ay napaka-importante niya kay lessor. Okay? Kaya lang, ang focus natin kay lessee. Okay, siguro sa next na napa-webinar ng Rayo, ayan, tapos invite tayo, ayan, edi try nating yung book of lessor naman yung maging focus, 'di ba? So last time ang diniscuss natin was employee benefits. Ayan, so ngayon, ayan, leases naman, books of lessee na lang kasi medyo mahaba tong topic na to, no? Kapag kinompress natin sa isang webinar, baka ma-overwhelm tayo ng concepts, di ba po? Ayan, okay? O sige, so ayan ha. So silip lang ako sa ano bago tayo magtuloy para lang po ayan, baka may mga issues sa streaming natin para hindi naman ano. Ayan, so far goods naman yung streaming natin, and sa Facebook okay naman. So may mga joiners pa rin tayo. Okay, kapag invite mo yung mga classmates natin, pwede pa naman pong makahabol. Okay, yun nga lang, di natin mauulit. Pwede nilang simulan mula sa simula, di ba? O tapos yung mga webinars naman natin, accessible pa rin later on. Di ba po? Ayan, so ayun. So sige, tuloy natin ito. Okay, so punta tayo sa libro ng lessee. Accounting for leases in the books of the lessee. So, paano po? Ano sabi niya? Lessees shall account for all leases as finance lease. Generally speaking, ayan, finance lease ka na. Okay, so pagka finance lease, anong requirement? Dapat may recognition ng asset, di ba? Okay, tapos syempre may corresponding recognition yun ng liability. So yun yung may establish natin in a bit. Kaya lang, sabi niya, may exception, except for. So establish lang muna natin to. Okay, except for, ayan, sabi niya, short-term leases. O, paano mo malalaman kung short-term leases yan? Baka parang kung gano'n lang katagal yung relasyon. Hindi, okay. So short-term leases, paano to? Okay, so short-term leases, dapat the lease term would be for a period of 12 months or less. Ayan. Those having a term of 12 months or less. Nasundan yon. So simple lang naman to, right? And then ano pa? Low value leases. Paano mo masasabi na low value leases yan? Pag low value leases, yan. So ito ang reference mo sa acquisition cost, no? Sa acquisition cost. Leases for which the underlying asset is of low value. Dapat yung acquisition cost niya. Pag binili natin siya ng bagong-bago, okay? Tapos low value siya sa perspective ng entity, and it may be classified as, or it will not be required to be classified as finance lease. Okay? So leases for which the underlying asset is of low value, such as, so mga examples binigay sa atin, di ba? Laptop, computers, ayan, small office furniture, and telephones. O, di ba? So yung minimal lang, yung cost. So wala pa naman pong wala pang yung determine na amount, okay, sinet na amount para masabi na low value yung list. Okay, so it's more of ito parang discretion mo na entity, judgment mo na. Pero dapat yung judgment na yon, yung kumbaga verifiable, di ba? Yung magkakaroon ng consensus kapag kaibang tao yung magdi-determine, yun rin yung magiging judgment niya, low value siya. Okay? Ang ingatan mo na lang dito, ang panglito nila dyan, pangkaraniwan, alam mo kung ano. Ang panglito lang po niyan, bibigyan ka niya ng yung mahal binili. Okay? Mahal binili. Okay, tapos, ayan, siguro mga 20 years yung naging useful life. Tapos, 1 year na lang natitira. Ang carrying amount, low value na. Okay, will that qualify as low value leases? Answer po would be no. Okay, kasi ang reference dapat ng low value lease would be, ayan, dun sa dun sa acquisition cost if the asset is newly acquired. Did you get this? Nasundan na po yan? Okay, so ayan ha. O tapos sa low value leases, regardless, di ba, kung short term yan or long term yung lease term. Okay, kahit na longer siya than 12 months, okay lang. Kahit na mag-operating leases ka pa rin dyan. Nasundan? Okay, so basta na-meet niya yung low value. Okay? So, ayan ha. So, di ba, hindi natin sila i-classify as finance lease. So, ano magiging classification nila? Magiging classification niyan would be, magiging classification niyan, operating lease na. O pagka-operating lease, so ito hindi na natin nilagay dito. Ha? Pagka-operating lease, generally, yung expenses mo, yung mga lease payments natin, i-treat lang yan as expense. Kapag ka-even, o di madali lang, about 10,000 monthly, edi 10,000 monthly, nagre-recognize ka ng expense. Okay, kung naman uneven, okay, kung uneven, anong gagawin? Pag uneven, okay, yung total payments mo over the lease term, ayan, divided by total payments divided by lease term, o yun naman yung magiging periodic rental expense mo. Nasusundan po ba? Nakuha mo yun? So pag even, okay, so yun na yung expense mo, yung periodic payments mo, yun na yung expense mo. Pagka uneven, total payments, parang i-even mo siya over the lease term. Okay? So, total payments divided by lease term, yun na yung periodic expense natin. Nakukuha? O paano kung may one-time payment kang binigay? Lease bonus yung term previously. Ano? Ayan, nagbigay tayo ng lease bonus. Diba? Worth 100,000. Kunyari lang. O pagka ganon, ayan, pagka mga one-time payment, diba? Pang entire lease term siya. O di i-allocate mo lang over the lease term. Nasusundan? So, simple, no, pagka-operating leases. Kaya dito maraming nalungkot nung tinanggal ang operating leases sa perspective ng Lessee. Alam mo bakit? Kasi siya na nga lang daw yung madali. Yun pa yung tinanggal. Okay? Pero kung iisipin, parang, di ba mas napadali? Kasi nabawasan yung dapat nating aralin. Nasundan mo siya. So, minsan talaga, parang kailangan, depende na lang, yung perspective lang. Pag may mga changes sa standards, kunin mo na lang yung positive side. Palaging ganun. Okay? Okay? Or kahit na anong sitwasyon, laging may positive side yan. Everything around us can be a source of motivation, di ba? Kapag ka nag-aaral tayo. Basta kunin mo lang yung positive side palagi ng sitwasyon. Nasusundan po ba yun? So parang dito, ayan, natanggal yung operating leases. Nice, okay yun. At least, makakapag-focus na tayo sa finance lease, sa perspective ng Lessee. O gano'n, di ba? Kaysa yung, ano ba naman yan, tinanggal pa, yun na nga lang alam ko, ano nang masasagot kong tama? Nakita po yung difference. So, ayun, so dapat doon tayo mag-focus doon sa positive side. Nasusundan? Okay, so yan ha. Okay, so yan yung mga exception. So, etong short-term leases, low-value leases, yan, operating lease pa rin yan. Kaya sinasabi natin, generally, finance lease. Okay? Kasi may exception. Ano yung exception? Short-term leases, low-value leases will be appropriately classified as operating leases. Will be accounted for as operating leases. Nasundan? Okay, ngayon, puntahan natin ang finance lease. Puntahan natin ang finance lease. So, paano po? Okay, so, a lessee accounting for a lease under a finance lease shall, dalawa lang ang gagawin mo dito. Ano yun? Recognize the lease liability at present value of lease payments, and then, dahil ni-recognize mo siya, okay, i-account mo siya, di ba? Hanggang matapos yung lease term. Parang ano lang yun, amortization schedule na lang yung babantayan mo dyan. Di ba? Pagka nalaman mo magkano yung lease liability, okay, i-amortize mo na lang later on. Nasundan? So, simple lang siya. Okay? And then, ano pa? Okay? Capitalize the right of use asset. So, yung ROU asset natin. And subsequently account for it under PAS 16 or PAS 40. So, PPE standards or investment property standards. So, ayun. So, tingnan mo yung layab, pagka-recognize natin, i-amortize mo lang. Okay? Parang ginagawa lang rin natin to sa bonds payable, diba? Even sa notes payable, sa loans payable. Okay? So, alam mo na to. Diba? So, parang aalamin lang natin magkano yung initial recognition niya. Okay? O, same with asset. Yan, capitalize the asset. O, pagka-capitalize mo, magkano, diba? Ano yung capitalizable cost niya? And then, ano nang gagawin natin? I-depreciate, ganun lang. Diba? Nasusundan mo siya. Ayan. So, kaya may mga topics na ba na nagawa na natin yun? Answer po would be yes. Diba? Parang i-align mo lang yung concepts na alam natin para mas madaling aralin. Ha? Okay, so isa-isayin natin. So paano po mag-recognize ng lease liability? And then paano mag-recognize ng ROU asset? Okay? Sige, so ito. So inahin natin ang lease liability kasi the amount of lease liability that will be recognized will form part ng ROU asset. Kaya unahin natin to. Ha? So ano-ano po yung lease liability niyan? Tingnan mo to. Okay, so initial, yan. So the lease liability at the commencement date of the lease shall be the discounted unpaid portion or yung portion not paid, diba? Shall be the discounted unpaid portion lease payments computed using either yung discounting niya, no? So number one, yan, implicit rate in the lease. Okay, implicit rate in the lease. So sinong nagdi-determine nito? Si lessor yan. So papaalam niya kay lessee, 'di ba, kung ano yung implicit rate, yan. Or ayan, in the absence of number one or if number one is not clearly determinable, ayan, if number one is not clearly determinable, ayan, o di gamitin niya daw yung incremental borrowing rate of the lessee. Nasusundan po ba? So tignan mo ha, pag nandun yung number one, okay, pag nandun yung number one, wag mo na i-consider yung incremental borrowing rate. Pero pag wala po yung implicit rate, then that's the time na you consider the incremental borrowing rate. So yun yung gagamitin nating rates to discount. Kumbaga ito yung effective rate natin kung notes payable yan or loans payable yan. Kasi yun yung gagamitin mo to calculate for the discounted value or the present value. Nasusundan? Nakukuha po? Kayang-kaya? Sige ha. So again ha, pag nag-discount tayo ng mga unpaid portion ng lease payments, ayan. So unang tignan, implicit rate. Pag nandun ang implicit rate, huwag mo nang pansinin yung incremental borrowing rate. Panglito na lang yon. Okay? Pag walang implicit rate, okay, or implicit rate is not determinable, okay, or cannot be determined, then walang choice si lessee but to use the incremental borrowing rate of the lessee. Lessee's incremental borrowing rate. Kaya, did you get this? Kasi kailangan, ano yan eh, okay, dapat familiar ka dyan. Tapos dito, di ba, dahil magdi-discount ka, dapat marunong kang mag-identify. Kasi di ba, bibigay na sa atin yung mga present value factors. Dapat marunong ka lang mag-identify kung anong appropriate present value factor ang gagamitin. Basta tandaan mo ganito. Pag one time yung payment, huwag ka nang mag-iisip. Present value of 1. Okay? Present value of 1. Pero ang leases kasi, karaniwan, siya, okay, installment, di ba? Periodic yung rental payments. Ang rule lang dyan, ganito po. Simplehan natin. Ha? 3 requirements para gumamit ka ng present value of ordinary annuity. Recall na natin. Pag present value of ordinary annuity, number 1, dapat po equal payments. Equal yung periodic rental payments. Nasundan? Ano pa? The first payment, equal payments and then equal intervals. So equal payments, pare-pareho yung amounts. Diba? Halimbawa, 1 million annually. Di dapat 1 million, 1 million, 1 million. Gets mo? And then equal intervals. Paano po yung equal intervals? Yung difference ng payment 1 with payment 2 ay 1 year. Dapat yung difference ng payment 2 at payment 3, 1 year din. Bago mo pwedeng gamitin yung ordinary annuity. Nasundan? So equal payments, equal intervals. And then pangatlo, ano po yung pangatlo? Pangatlo, the first payment must be made at the end of the first period. Okay? The first payment will be made at the end of the first period. So kunyari, pumasok ng January 1, annually yung rental payments. Di dapat ang first payment kailan gagawin? At the end of the year, at the end of the first period. Did you get this? So, equal payments, equal interval, end. Equal payments, equal intervals, end. Kaya, that's present value of ordinary annuity. Annuity due naman, ang annuity due, or annuity in advance. So, yun na lang yung key mo dun eh. Di ba? Yung pang-trigger ng knowledge mo. Annuity due, ang annuity due po, parang ordinary annuity rin. Equal payments, equal intervals, ano lang ang kaibahan? Ang kaibahan lang, yung first payment will be made at the start or beginning of the transaction period. So kung January 1 pumasok, January 1 bayad agad. Kaya nga advance, di ba? Annuity in advance. Kaya, gets mo siya? Tapos, pag hindi po pwede ang present value of ordinary annuity, hindi pwede ang present value of annuity due, then you can use present value of 1. Nasundan? O, lalo na ha, pagka feeling mo, hindi ka ganun ka-sure, pagka namimili ka ng present value of ordinary, present value factors, guys, eto, makinig kayo sa akin. Actually, kahit na sinong professor, sasabihin sa atin na ito yung isa sa mga topics na never natin na pwedeng takasan. Dapat alam mo kung kailan gagamitin ang present value of OA, present value of annuity due, at saka present value of 1. Bibigay na sa iyo yung rate, diba? Mamimili ka na lang. Tapos syempre, it won't hurt kapag alam rin natin mag-compute mo. O tinuturo naman sa atin yan. Nasundan mo. So, hindi to pwedeng takasan. So, please, aralin natin. Ha? Okay? Sige. So, yeah. So, again, in discounting the unpaid portion list payments, number 1, implicit rate. If number 1, if the implicit rate is not determinable, you use incremental borrowing rate. Nakuha po? Sige, next. So, paano po, ano yung mga composition yan, di ba? So, ano yung mga kasama dyan kapag nag-compute tayo? So, list payments include, fixed payments, less any list incentives or less any list incentives receivables, ayan. And then variable list payments dependent on an index or rate. Okay, so at commencement date ito. And then, ayan pa, residual value guarantees. O dito, sa residual value guarantees, sige, sa A and B, sa mga problems, ito na kasi nasa standards, yun yung wordings. Sa A and B, ayan lang yung kung pagdating sa leases, yung periodic rental payments, karaniwan yung kasama dyan. Periodic rental payments. Okay, pero kung ibigay ng problem, fixed payments, variable lease payments, o di isama mo lang. Diba? Nasusundan, pero yan lang po yung periodic rental payments generally. Okay? Next, ano pa? Residual value guarantees. Okay, so dito sa contract of leases, okay, sa perspective ng lessee, di ba naririnig mo kasi dyan, guaranteed by the, guaranteed residual value at saka unguaranteed residual value. Okay, ang guaranteed residual value, okay, the residual value is guaranteed by the lessee or a party related to the lessee. Nasusundan mo? And then, kapag any other party na, ba, related to the lessor, ayan, any other party na, unguaranteed na yun. So nakuha mo siya. So, yung unguaranteed residual value, guaranteed din siya, pero hindi nga lang ng lessee. Ang guarantee sa kanya, any other party other than the lessee or party related to the lessee. Did you get this? So, again, guaranteed residual value, it was guaranteed by the lessee, okay, or a party related to the lessee. Unguaranteed, on the other hand, would be guaranteed by a party related to the lessor or any other party. Basta hindi lang ni lessee. Yun lang, ganun lang kasimple. Tapos, kapag ka-lessee ka, listen to this, pag lessee yung ina-account mo, ang pakialam niya lang, guaranteed residual value. Guaranteed residual value. Nasundan mo? Okay, so guaranteed residual value. So sa lessee, sa book ng lessee, huwag mong pansinin yung unguaranteed residual value. Ganun kasimple. Ganun lang kasimple mag-account. Nasusundan po ako. Clear naman so far? So yan yung sa residual value guarantees. So okay pa tayo huwag masyadong maiinip. Okay? So di ba, mamaya ilatag lang natin yung concepts para po mas madali natin isolve. Okay? Yeah. Next, and then the exercise price of a reasonably certain purchase option. Yeah. So pagka may purchase option, and it is reasonably certain that the lessee will exercise that purchase option, ay i-present value mo rin yun. Ganun lang kasimple. Okay? O tas ano yan? Ganito. Yung contract of lease kasi, pwede siyang may transfer of ownership. Pag may transfer of ownership, wala yung C at D. Nasundan mo? Rental payments lang. So, dapat sasabihin sa lease contract na may transfer of ownership at the end of the lease term. Okay? So, pag may transfer of ownership, rental payments lang ang i-present value. Nasundan? Next, pagka may purchase option naman, ano ang i-present value natin? Pag may purchase option, yung rental payments, yung A and B, and yung letter D. Nasundan mo siya? Tingnan mo ulitin ko. Pag may transfer of ownership, yung rental payments lang. So items A and B lang dito. Okay? Pagka may purchase option, yung rental payments together with the purchase option. Yun yung i-present value. Nasundan? So hindi pwedeng may transfer of ownership tapos may purchase option pa. Hindi mangyayari yun. Nasundan po. Pagka may ganung problem, malamang mali yung problem. Ganun kasimple. Okay? Ano pa? Pag walang transfer of ownership, walang purchase option, okay? Nasusundan? Walang transfer of ownership, walang purchase option, ayun. Ngayon, dun mo lang i-consider yung guaranteed residual value. Kapag may guaranteed residual value, isama mo siya sa ipe-present value. Nasundan? So, rental payments plus yung guaranteed residual value. Nakuha? So, ulitin ko ha, pag transfer of ownership, A and B lang, rental payments lang. Fixed payments, variable lease payments. Okay? Next. Pagka may purchase option, yung rental payments plus yung purchase option. Okay? Yung purchase price, yung purchase option. Yun yung present value mo. Okay? Pag walang transfer of ownership, walang purchase option, may binigay na guaranteed residual value, rental payments, and then yung guaranteed residual value. Nasundan? So, ganun po ha. Ganun kasimple yan. Kaya, and then, yung last item, yung letter E natin, lease termination penalties if a lessee termination option was considered in setting the lease term. So, nasa kontrata naman. So, ipe-present value lang. So, if ever, di ba, na i-terminate, ito yung babayaran niya, di i-present value mo. Nasundan? Kaya, okay, so, yun ha. Next, and then, so yan yung sa initial natin. O pagka, after nyan, ano na, amortization na lang. Diba? The lease liability shall be accounted for using the effective interest method. So, imaginein mo na yung amortization schedule natin. Diba? So, paano mag-compute? O pagka-amortization schedule, recall lang, paano mag-compute ng, ng interest expense. Okay? And the carrying amount at the beginning of the period multiplied by effective interest rate. O dito, di ba, yung implicit rate or yung borrowing rate or kung ano yung discount rate na ginamit mo. As simple as that. Okay? Carrying amount at the beginning of the period times appropriate discount rate. Okay? Yun na yung interest expense mo. O, pagka naman tinanong ka, magkanong carrying amount, i-recall mo na. Yung mga short calculations dito. Di ba? Mamaya papakita naman natin. Pero sige, latag natin ha. Pag carrying amount naman ng kino-compute mo sa amortization schedule, carrying amount at the beginning of the period times 1 plus discount rate. 1 plus I. Okay? 1 plus I. So, about 10%, edi 1.1. Nakuha? Okay, so, carrying amount at the beginning of the period times 1 plus I minus rental payments. Okay? Minus payments. O, di ba? Mamaya, makikita uli natin yan. So, hopefully, pagka ganito, mas maganda kung nagno-note ka rin. Okay? Kung nagno-note ka para, alam mo yun, mas ma-reinforce yung retention mo. Kasi aside from, naririnig mo siya, okay, tapos sinusulat mo pa, di na-develop pa lalo yung retention natin. Okay? So, yan. Next, puntahan natin. So, ito yung sa lease liability mo. Okay, punta na ngayon tayo sa asset. Yan. So, doon naman tayo sa asset. Yan. So, unahin natin yung asset. Yan. So, ROU. Yan. ROU asset. So, magkano ang ika-capitalize and then paano yung subsequent treatment sa kanya. Diba? So, for right of use asset, yan. So, initial natin, okay, so magkano ang i-capitalizable? Tignan mo. Okay, the cost of the ROU asset is the total of, yan, the total of the amount of the lease liability recognized. So, yung nandun sa kanina na diniscuss natin. Diba? So, ayun. Ano pa? Dagdag mo lang yung any lease payments made at or before the commencement date less any lease incentive. So, ayan. Lease payments made at or before the commencement date. So, dito papasok yung mga lease bonuses, yung mga one-time payments. Diba? Ayan. Nasusundan po. And then, less any lease incentives any lease incentives given by the lessor to the lessee. So, bibigay naman yan sa problem. Ano po? Okay, and then, ano pa? So, kasi, basta pagka nagka-capitalize ka ng asset, di ba, pag may portion na nilabas ka, generally capitalizable. Tapos, pag may nabawi ka, di tatanggalin mo siya sa capitalizable mo. Ganun lang po yan. Ha? And then, any initial direct costs incurred. Any initial direct costs incurred. Okay, so ito yung may incur niya, di ba, to come up with the lease contracts, o yung commission, di ba? Yung binayad natin sa broker, ayan, professional fees, yung nag-ayos ng kontrata, ayan, so any initial direct costs. And, ayan, o ito, parang PPE lang, estimated cost of dismantling, diba? Parang ganon. Okay, an estimate of costs to be incurred to dismantle and remove an asset. Okay, at ano pa, and restore the site. So pwede mo rin siya makita ang estimated restoration cost. Okay? So ang unique sa letter D, siya pa lang yung may incur mo, babayaran mo pa lang siya in the future. Diba? Doon pa lang magkakaroon ng outflow ng cash. Yung A, yung B, syempre yung A, may babayaran in the future. Okay? Tapos present value lang natin. Yung B and C, most probably may cash flow na dyan. Yung delta, ayan, ano naman, estimated siya kasi kailan siya babayaran? Sa future pa. So dito, yung A and D, alpha and delta, may present value considerations ka. Okay? Yung A and D, alpha and delta, okay? Kapag binigay yung present value, i-present value. Nasusundan? Okay, next po. Ano pa? Okay, o subsequent. Paano naman ang subsequent niya? O the ROU asset shall be presented as a line item in the non-current asset section separately from other assets or within the same line item as the underlying asset. So, kumbaga, halimbawa nag-rent ka ng building o pwede mo isang isama dun sa mga buildings mo na classified as PPE. Okay. Pero ayun nga, pagka ano lang, apply mo lang yung rules ng aggregation and disaggregation. Kapag material yung item, ayan, better to present it separately. Nasusundan? Okay. And accounted for using any of the following. So ano lang naman to, pwede mo siyang i-account as PPE or investment property. So cost model or evaluation model for PPE, and then ayan, applied past 40 kung investment property naman siya. Nasundan. So, tandaan mo lang, investment property, land and building lang. Land and building. Diba? O, tignan mo. So, dito, expose ka po dito sa depreciation. Diba? So, generally, ang mga problems ng leases, wala pa akong nakita na nag-revalue amount model siya. Generally, naka-cost model. Kasi hindi naman niya issue talaga kung alam mo ang cost model or revaluation model. Ang focus niya is leases. Diba? So, kung paano i-account yung ROU asset. Okay? So parang itetest na tayo ng cost model, revaluation model doon sa PPE na yon na topic. Nasundan? So para alam mo yun, naka-departmentalize yung or naka-compartmentalize yung mga concepts natin para mas madaling aralin. Okay? So dito expose ka sa depreciation kasi karaniwan cost model yung ginagamit. Ano? So ayan. So paano po ang depreciation? Tingnan mo to. There is a transfer of ownership or a purchase option that is reasonably certain to be exercised. And nakulangan pa ng letter D, exercise, to be exercised. Anong sabi niya? I-depreciate mo siya over the useful life or economic life of the lease asset. Okay? Nasundan mo siya. So, halimbawa, ang lease term mo ay 5 years. Ang useful life ng asset ay 8 years. Okay? Kung may transfer of ownership, may purchase option that is reasonably certain to be exercised, ayun, useful life ang gagamitin mo. Kasi dito, ang assumption po, hindi na babalik sa lessor yung asset. Okay? So the asset will not revert to the lessor. Ayan. So hanggang matapos na yung useful life na kay lessee na siya. So pwede niya nang i-depreciate over the lease term. Did you get this? Klaro yan? Kaya ha? Okay, so ayun. O pagka ganito, kahit online tayo, tas nandyan ka mag-isa, di ba? Or kasama mo yung mga friends mo. Ayan, medyo tangu-tangu ka, o kaya naman, alam mo yun, sasagot ka din. Huwag na nga lang masyadong malakas kapag may kasamang ibang tao na hindi alam na nanonood ka ng webinar ng Rayo, di ba? Okay, so ayan ha. Pero sana na-gets mo to. Okay, basta may transfer of ownership, may purchase option, paano i-depreciate? Over useful life. Ganun kasimple. Paano po yung residual value? Iko-consider ko ba? Answer po would be yes. O tandaan, di ba? Pag number 1, walang sense na lagyan ka ng guaranteed residual value. Okay. Pero kung lituhin ka man, hindi mo gagamitin yung guaranteed residual value dito. Okay, paano yung residual value? Eh di kung may sariling estimate ng residual value yung lessee, yun yung gamitin niya. Kasi di ba pag nagde-depreciate tayo, acquisition cost less residual value to compute for the depreciable amount. Did you get that? Nasundan ha? So, again, for this item, for number 1, pag binigyan ka ng guaranteed residual value, panglito lang yun. Okay? So, tingnan mo kung merong estimated residual value at the end of the useful life of the asset. Yun yung gamitin mo ngayon as residual value. Sana klaro ha? And then, paano po kung walang purchase option, walang transfer of ownership? Ayan. So, absence of item number 1, di ano ka na lang, lease term or useful life, whichever is shorter. Whichever is shorter. So, generally, di ba, ang shorter, di ba, it would be lease term. Okay, so logically listed, diba? Kasi wala naman sigurong lessee na albawa ang lease term 10 years, tas ang useful life lang ng asset 2 years. Diba? Parang loko-loko naman yun, diba? So, nagets mo ba? So, ayun. So, logically speaking, lease term would be shorter. Nasundan. Pero yung sa standard kasi, eto yung nakalagay, economic life or lease term, whichever is shorter. Is that clear? Sana nasusundan mo siya. So, tingnan mo di ba? Doon pa lang sa calculation ng lease liability, in-emphasize na natin na iba-iba. Hindi siya yung parang i-add mo lang lahat yung items na yun. Diba? So, similar din dito sa depreciation. So, tignan mo, diba? Tignan mo kung ano yung terms and conditions. May transfer of ownership ba? Useful life. May purchase option ba? Useful life. Wala yung transfer of ownership, wala yung purchase option, okay? Lease term or useful life, whichever is shorter. Pero logically speaking, lease term would be far shorter. Nasundan mo siya? O, diba? So, ayun na. Yan na yung konsepto niyan. Kasi, ang requirement lang sa'yo, mag-recognize ng layab, mag-recognize ng right of use asset. Eh di, yun na. Diba? So, tingnan mo, apply natin, ha? Concept tayo. So, dito, i-expect ko, sasagot ka. So, kung willing kang mag-type sa Facebook, ayan, pwede, type mo lang, ha? Okay, so para makita ng ating, yung talagang may involvement tayo. Okay? Mas gusto ko kasi ganun kung pwede nga mag-interact pa dito, gagawin natin. O if ever there will be questions, tingin ko kahit sa comment section or message mo yung team natin, okay, na naka-standby, malamang sa malamang, isasabihin naman sa amin. Okay? Sige, so ayun, ha? O, sige, apply natin. Okay, tas sagot ka. Okay, type mo lang sa question sa comment section, di ba? Okay? O, ito. Sige nga. Ito, madali ito. Under IFRS, a lessee is required to account for all leases as finance lease and recognize. Pagka yan, nasagot mo na, board exam ready ka na. Hindi, so, kayang-kaya mo ng leases. So, grabe yung no? Pero, yun kasi yung pundasyon ng konsepto. Yun yung pundasyon ng concept. Okay, so ano ang sagot natin? So, para hindi puro pangalan yung nakikita natin. Diba? Para may ibang laman naman. Ayan, so may mga sumasagot na. So, goods yan. Huwag kayong mahiya. Okay lang yan. Alam niyo po sa Reo, isa sa mga promote natin dito is yung inclusivity. Diba? Yung lahat tayo part ng sistema. Okay? So, ayun. So, next-extend natin to kahit hanggang webinar, ay maparamdam namin. Hindi talaga kaya na mag-enroll sa Reo. Ayan. Due to any possible reason na naiisip mo. Ayan. So, gumagawa kami ng way to, alam mo yun, reach out to you guys. Okay? So, siguro ito, yung webinar natin. Okay? Para, in a way, makapag-impart pa rin. Makapag-impart pa rin ng knowledge. Okay? So, ayun. Ayan. So, ayan. Maraming sumasagot. Ayan. And consistently, letter A yung nakikita natin. So, obviously, the correct answer is alpha. Diba po? Ayan. So, madali naman to, right? Next. So, ROU asset at saka lease liability lang. O, eto. Kayang-kaya uli yan. The lessee may apply the operating lease model under what condition? O, kailan mo gagamitin ang operating lease? So, sagot ka uli. Ano rin, para in a way, makahinga-hinga lang rin ako. Okay, so anong sagot natin? Anong sabi natin? O, dalawa lang ang exception, di ba? Dalawa lang ang exception. Okay, short-term lease at saka low-value lease. Ayan, low-value lease. So anong sagot? Letter? Letter C tayo. Charlie. Letter C. Okay? So, ayun po. So, madali ito. Ito, dito tayo medyo mas magtagal konti. So, kasi may ano may lag dun sa or may time difference dun sa as I deliver it at saka dun sa nakikita mo, di ba? So, ayan. So, ito. Maganda sagutin natin. So, okay pa naman kayo? Dagdag lang ako ng ilaw kasi parang medyo malabo. Okay? So, ito, pwede na to? Pwede na to? Pwede nang sagutin yan. Okay? So, evaluate the following statements related to low value lease. So, the value of an underlying asset is based on the current value of the asset at its current age. O, anong sagot natin? False, di ba? Kasi nga dapat saan siya nakabase dun sa if the asset will be acquired, if the asset will be newly acquired. Okay? So, mali yung statement 1. Statement 2, the term of a low value lease shall be less than 12 months. Hindi naman. Okay? Sabi nga natin, pwede siyang mag-extend beyond 12 months. Basta, ang reference pag low value lease dun sa acquisition cost. Okay? And then, so mali rin. Okay? So, puntahan natin. So, letter ay number 3. Yan. So, for number 3, an underlying asset does not qualify as low value lease if the nature of the asset is such that the asset is typically not of low value when you. O, ito tama. So the correct answer po would be ayan, letter A. Yung statement 3 lang yung tama. Yung 1 and 2 both are incorrect. Nasundan? Next, number 4. Which of the following is not included in the definition of lease payments? Lease payments. So anong hindi kasama? Di ba? Ano lang naman yun sa lease payments, rental payments, okay? Purchase option, guaranteed residual value. Okay? So wala po dun yung letter B. Yan, yung letter B. Okay? So cost for services and taxes to be paid by and reimbursed to the lessor. So hindi kasama. No? Ano pa? What is the cost of a right of use asset acquired in a finance lease? Cost of right of use asset. Absolute sum of the lease payments, hindi, no? Nag-present value rin siya, di ba? Present value yung lease liability, tapos yun yung idinagdag. Nasundan? So, ayun. So, A, B or C or D. Present value of the lease payments including executory cost discounted at an appropriate rate. Pag po may executory cost, may contingent rent, dapat po excluded yan. Okay? Contingent rent and executory cost should be excluded dun sa lease payments natin. Nasusundan? So, mali yung bravo. Letter C, present value of the lease payments exclusive of executory cost. So, eto. Charlie tayo. Diba? So, yung letter D, present value of the fair value, hindi. Diba? Hindi man tayo nagpa-present value ng fair value. Diba? So, letter C tayo. Nasundan? Kaya to? So, ayan. Next. A lessee with a lease containing purchase option that is reasonably certain to be exercised should depreciate the right of use asset over, di ba, pagka may purchase option, anong sabi natin? May transfer of ownership, may purchase option, useful life po tayo. Useful life. Nasundan? Kaya to ha, madali, right? Next, number 7. In computing depreciation of a right of use asset under a lease, the lessee should deduct. In computing depreciation of a right of use asset under a lease, the lessee should deduct. So ano po to? So for Kapag po ano, 'di ba, pagka may transfer of ownership at saka kapag ka may purchase option, yung sariling estimate ng residual value. Okay, pagka walang transfer of ownership, walang purchase option, ay ang residual value na gagamitin mo would be the guaranteed residual value. Parang di natin nabanggitin kanina. Okay? So, tanggalin mo na kagad sa choices yung ano, letter B at letter D. 'Di ba? Mali na, 'di ba hindi natin kino-consider ang unguaranteed. Tanggalin mo na sa choices ang Bravo at Delta. Nasundan? Okay, so ang pagpipilian na lang natin Alpha and Charlie. Okay? So, yung Alpha, guaranteed residual value, depreciate over the lease term. Yung letter C, guaranteed residual value and depreciate over the useful life of the asset. O, so, hindi siya bangga, di ba? Kasi di ba pagka naka-guaranteed residual value ka, lease term yung ano mo, yung denominator or you'll be allocating it over the lease term. Okay? Kapag ka naman transfer of ownership at saka kapag purchase option, dun mo gagamitin ang useful life. So mali yung Charlie. So the correct answer is letter A. Letter A. Nasundan? Gets pa? Kaya pa? Kaya pa? Okay, so sige nga po, bago tayo mag-solve ng problem, so ayan, shout out muna tayo sa mga participants natin. Ha? Okay naman tayo. So, ayan, majority. Ayan, so thank you sa mga sumasagot. Okay lang na sumagot. Okay? Tapos, ano naman tayo? Basta gusto ko ma-feel nyo na kasama kayo na as much as possible gusto nating involve yung isa't isa. Ha? So, ayun. Ayan. Sige. So, yan po yung ating basic concepts muna. Ayan. So, ngayon, illustrate tayo. Ayan. Illustrative problem tayo. Okay, so mga concepts. So syempre, ito na yung pang-computation, di ba? So sa lahat naman, parang dito tayo pinaka-porsigido. Di ba? Pagka accounting student ka, iba yung training natin pagdating sa calculation. Parang dito tayo alam mo yun, pinaka-excited palagi. Okay, pero tandaan mo, ang pundasyon ng mga calculation natin, yung mga concepts na inaaral. Kaya dapat, okay, familiar tayo or alam natin ng concepts. Ha? O sige, ito. So, apply natin. Okay? Apply natin yung mga concepts. So, at the beginning of the year, so, may pinalist out daw na building yung lessor, di ba? May nilist out yung lessee from a lessor. So, ayan, nandyan yung details, annual rental, purchase option, initial direct cost, lease bonus, lease incentive received, present value of restoration cost, lease term, useful life, okay yan. Tapos ang hinahanap sa atin, okay, palagi pag nagsosolve, di ba, alamin kung ano yung tinatanong bago aralin yung problem, okay, or bago basahin yung detalye. So what amount should be reported as lease liability at year-end? Okay, so beginning of the year yung given, and then at year-end ang tinatanong sa atin. Okay, what amount should be reported as cost of the right of use asset, so ROU asset, magkano kinapitalize? Total amount of interest expense that should be reported for the current year, and then what amount should be reported as depreciation of the right of use asset. So, ayan. So, basic lang, di ba? ROU asset at saka lease liability. Simple as that. Okay? So, ito yung details natin. So, isa-isayin natin. So, ang hinihingi sa atin, lease liab, ROU asset, interest expense, and depreciation. Sige. So, ito. So, lease liability recognized. So, magkano po ang magiging lease liability? So, may purchase option siya, di ba? So, anong sabi natin pag purchase option? Okay, pag may purchase option yan, dalawa yung magiging part ng ating basic, yung two common items that will be part of your of calculating our lease liability. Present value ng rental payments at saka present value ng purchase option. Nasusundan po. And then, kung may present value yung penalties in case of termination, yun, dagdag mo. Kaya lang, medyo madalang yun. Yung item letter E natin kanina. Or ito, yung pangatlong pinag-uusapan. So dito, dahil alam mong may purchase option, yung dalawa lang yung gagamitin mo. Paano kung may bigay na guaranteed residual value? Walang sense. Diba? Pero kung binigyan ka, huwag mong pansinin kasi mangingibabaw yung purchase option. Ganun kasimple. Nasusundan? Sige. So, yun ha. So, i-present value natin. So, una, annual rental payable at end of each year. at end of each year. So anong gagamitin mo present value factor? O, anong gagamitin? Equal payments, 1.5 per year. O, equal intervals, yes, annually. Okay, kailan ang first payment? End of each year. So ano siya? Equal payments, equal interval, and present value of ordinary annuity. So for 6 periods, kasi 6 years yung term, and then at 10%, yun yung implicit rate. Nasundan? So yun. So times, so 1.5 million multiplied by 4.36. Nasundan mo siya? And then equals lang natin. So magkano po ang resulting figure nito? Okay, so lalabas dyan, 6,540,000. 6,540,000. Nasundan? Next. Ano pa? Present value natin yung purchase option. So magkano daw po to be exercised? 1 million. Siyempre ito at the end of the lease term. O one-time payment. Anong gagamitin mo present value factor? Present value of 1. Nasundan? Okay, so yan. So 1 million times 0.56. So ibigay na sa atin. So ang kailangan mo na lang gawin, di ba? Gamitin ng tama yung present value. Present value factors. Okay? So magkano ang lease liability to be recognized? Okay, ang total lease liability mo, 7,100,000. Nasundan so far? Tapos ano lang gagawin mo? I-amortize mo lang siya. Amortize mo. Okay? So ang magiging lease liability at the end of the year, di ba yun yung hinahanap? So paano sabi natin? Liability at the start of the period multiplied by 1 plus I, tapos ibawas natin yung rental, yung periodic payment. So dito, 7.1 million times 1.1 minus yung 1.5 million. Okay? So yan yung short calculation para hindi ka prepare ng amortization schedule. Pero mamaya may prepare tayong amortization schedule para ma-recall mo na rin yung amortization schedule. Ha? So ayun. So magkano po ang sagot? Yan, 6,310,000. Okay, 6,310,000. Nasusundan? So, madali lang siya, di ba? Okay, so ang tamang sagot would be letter and letter A. Letter A. So, for the first item, letter A. Okay pa? So, letter A ha, yung lease liability, 6,310,000. Nasundan? Next, na sinihingi sa atin, ROU asset. So, magkano ang ika-capitalize nating ROU asset? So, ilan po yan? So, di ba? Merong 4 na items. So, una would be yung ating lease liability na ni-recognize. So, magkano siya? 7.1 million. Okay, ano pa? So, yung mga lease payments na binayad on or before the commencement date, okay, less any incentive received. So, ayun. So, meron po ba? Yes, may lease bonus. Ayun. May lease bonus at saka lease incentive received. And then, syempre, yung pangatlo is the initial direct cost. Parang nauna niyang kinonsider kasi siguro yun yung unang item. Ayan. So, initial direct cost, 405, capitalize mo lang. Lease bonus paid. Okay, so dagdag natin minus yung lease incentive received na 50. Yan yung di ba? Yung first 3 items. So, tapos, pang-apat, ano yung pang-apat? Estimated restoration cost. Okay, so tapos ayun. So, meron po ba dito? Yes, binigyan tayo. Present value of restoration costs discounted at 8% for 6 periods. Ayan. So, ayun. Tapos ito wag mong i-assume. Halimbawa, hindi ka binigyan ng present value factor. Okay? Wag mo i-assume na na yung implicit rate yun rin yung gagamitin na pang-restore. Pang present value dun sa restoration cost. Okay? Dapat po may ibibigay yan. Dapat may ibibigay. Nasusundan? Okay. So, ayun ha. So, kaya dito, i-specify natin na at 8% siya. Okay? So, nonetheless, i-present value. So, pagka binigyan tayo ng undiscounted, i-present value. Ito, hindi na natin present value kasi present value na siya. At present value. Is that clear? So, ito na, yung ROU asset. So, 8.771 plus 405 plus 300 minus 50 plus 945. Nasusundan? Madali lang? Kayang-kaya? Sige. So, yan. So, tamang sagot, letter B. Bravo. Tapos sinanap sa atin interest expense at saka depreciation. Okay, so for interest expense, paano uli ang interest? Para dun sa, ayan, sige, bago tayo punta sa interest expense, entryhan natin para makakita tayo ng journal entry. So, debit, anong debit natin? ROU asset, 8.7. Ayan. Tapos credit, yung lease liability 7.1. O ano pa? Ano pang i-credit natin? O syempre po yung liability sa restoration. Diba? Kasi yet to be incurred yan. Diba? Naka-present value, 945. And then, cash. O yung balancing figure na. Or ano yan eh, diba? Initial direct cost, lease bonus, at saka yung lease incentive. Nasundan? Gets mo to? Okay, so ayan ha, yung ating entry for that. Next po, ayan, so letter B, yung ROU asset. So interest expense, for interest expense, saan mo ibabase yung interest mo? Sa mga utang. Anong utang natin? Ito ha, ang common sa mga problem, yung isa lang yung ibibigay. Yung lease liability lang. Okay? Pero may interest ka rin may incur sa restoration cost. Diba? Kasi naka-present value siya. So may incurrence din to ng interest. Huwag mong kalimutan yun. Ha? Okay, so for lease liability, for year 1, magkano ang interest? So carrying amount at the start of the period, which is 7.1, yung na-compute natin kanina, dun sa requirement 1, multiply na or restoration cost. Okay, so ilang restoration cost? Restoration 8%. 5,000 multiply percent. Ito po, 75. So, ang total interest expense natin, 785. So, ingatan mo ha. Baka hindi mo kasi i-compute yung interest para dun sa restoration. So, kasi ang mas nakasanayan ay Ay, wala, no? Share screen. Okay, ayan. Ayan, pasensya na. Medyo nawala. Sige. So, nakabalik na ba? May pakagat labi pa. Ayan. Sige, sige. So, kita na po ba yung screen? Try ko lang na mag-appear sa ano natin, sa Zoom. Iyon. Okay, so going back. Okay, so yan, kita na daw, no? So, So going back, no, pagka nagka-calculate tayo ng interest, huwag mong kalimutan na may interest na may incur dun sa present value natin na restoration cost. Okay? So yun. And then, ano na yung next na requirement sa atin? Hinahanap sa atin ay, and so for interest, letter B tayo. So ang last na requirement is depreciation. Okay, so paano natin to i-depreciate? Okay? So paano natin siya i-depreciate? Okay, acquisition cost minus residual value. So dahil may purchase option, tignan mo kung merong estimated residual value yung ating lessee. Kung wala, ayun, di zero lang yung assumption. Kung bigyan ka ng guaranteed residual value, ano ulit sabi natin? Huwag mong papansinin kasi panglito lang. Nasundan? Okay, next. So ayun, and then dahil may purchase option to, over how many years mo siyang i-depreciate? Answer po would be, ayan, over the useful life. Okay, so the depreciation would be, ayan, ROU asset na 8.7 divided by yung ating useful life na 10 years. Okay, yan po yung annual depreciation mo. So entire year naman na gamit from the beginning of the year up to the end. Ayan, depreciated lang. Nasundan? So, 870,000. Nakuha po. So, madali lang. So, ayan. So, ang sagot natin would be letter C. So, hopefully, na nasusundan natin yung konsepto natin dito. So, di ba? Madali lang siya. Right? Mas na-simplify nga po yung accounting for leases. Di ba? So, sana na-recall mo siya. Tingnan pa natin. Ito pa. May mga problems pa tayo dito. So, So on January, okay, a 5-year lease with a lessor, annual lease payments of 1,2 including annual executory costs, okay, of 200 are payable at the end of each year. The entity knows that the lessor expects an 8% implicit rate on the lease. The entity has a 10% incremental borrowing rate. So anong gagamitin natin? The 8%, 'di ba? Kasi given yung implicit rate. Okay? The equipment is expected to have a useful life of 10 years. In addition, a third party has guaranteed to pay the lessor a residual value of 500 at the end of the lease. So a third party has guaranteed. So hindi si lessee. So ano to? Unguaranteed residual value. Anong sabi natin sa perspective ng lessee? Hindi pinapansin ang unguaranteed. Ano lang papansinin mo? Guaranteed residual value. Nasundan? Okay, so yun. So the present value of an ordinary annuity, 3.99 and 3.79 at 10%. Okay, the present value of one at 8% for 5 periods, 0.68 at 10% for 5 periods, 0.62. So anong gagamitin natin? Saan tayo nakabase? Implicit rate. Implicit rate. Okay, so for the present values, anong gagamitin natin? So that will give you 3 million na ba? bumibitaw talaga yung internet. Ayan, ay, pasensya na. Okay, so siguro po kasi alam mo yun, ang tawag dito, parang peak hours ng internet ngayon. Anyway, so ayan, mukhang nakabalik naman na, no? So, eto. Bale, babalik din yan. Basta po pag naputol, halimbawa in the middle lang, at hindi ako nagpapaalam, babalik at babalik yan, ha? Okay, so, ayan. Sige, tayo lang natin makita ko ulit sa Facebook. Sige, so ayan, nakita ko na. Okay? So again, bakit po rental payments lang? Kasi yung residual value na binigay, it was guaranteed, okay, by a third party, not by the lessee. Okay? So ano siya? Unguaranteed. So unguaranteed residual value, hindi lang natin to pinapansin. Pagka perspective ng lessee. Okay? Sige. So sa lessor mo yan gagawin. Ha? O next. Next. Yan. So, ano pa ang hinahanap sa atin? Okay, liability. What is the principal amount of the lease obligation? So, ito yung liability end. Okay, so anong gagawin mo? Di ba? Carrying amount at the start of the period, which is 3,990 times 1.08 minus 1 million. Di ba? Ganun lang naman po. Okay, so di ba? Ang simple, di ba? Parang takot na takot tayo sa leases. Ayan, pero kung papansinin mo, simple lang siya. Basta alam mo lang yung guidelines, di ba? O, tapos hinihingi na naman sa atin interest. O, paano uli mag-compute ng interest? Same lang na to. So, to account for this transactions. Nasusundan? Okay, so yan na yung second problem natin. Second problem na natin. Okay. So, anyway, so ito. So pagka nalabuan ka sa sinasabi ko, nasa screen rin naman natin. Okay, next. Tignan mo to. So what is the lease liability on December 31, 2024? Current portion, lease liability, December 31, 2024. What is the interest expense for 2024? So kailan pumasok? December 31, 2023. Nangupahan tayo ng automobiles for executive use. The lease required the entity to make 5 annual payments of 1.5 beginning, tignan mo to, December 31, 2023. So pagpasok, bayad agad. So saan may effect yan? Sa calculation mo ng present value factors. Okay? At the end of the lease, we had residual value guarantee of the automobiles at 1 million. So meron siyang guaranteed residual value. Okay? So, paano po natin gagamitin? Kukumputin yan. Wala namang transfer of ownership, walang purchase option. Ayun, tas may guaranteed residual value. So, to compute, okay, para dun sa lease liability natin, ito, so move ko lang yung details. Ito, so lease liability recognized, i-present value mo yung rental payments. Magkano yun? 1 million. So 1 million multiplied by, anong ginamit yung present value factor? In advance. Then, and we take note of that, present value of guaranteed residual value. So 1 million times 0.62. Okay? O, tapos, ito po yung capitalizable part ng ROU asset. Capitalizable part ng ROU asset. Okay? Kaya lang, kung tatanungin ka ng December 31, okay? Kung tatanungin ka ng December 31, 2023 na balanse, okay? Tanggalin mo yung payment so, magiging utang ng 2023, 2027. No, di ba puro 2024? Magkano utang 2024? Magkano current 2024 at saka interest expense? Diba? Ito. So, kung mag-a-amortize tayo, ito po yung magiging itsura. So, mga columns natin. Okay, so date, So December 31, 2023. So starting point natin, pakita natin yung 6,875. Okay, tapos di ba bayad agad? So yung first payment, syempre wala pang nai-incur na interest. Wala pang nai-incur na interest dyan. Okay, so apply mo lang lahat sa principal. Okay, so the entire amount, would be applied to the principal, edi lahat yun ibawas lang natin. Ayan. Wag maiinis ha. Okay, pasensya na. Okay, ako na humihingi ng pasensya sa internet connection. Okay. So, ayan. So, going back, okay, so again, sabi natin, the entire amount, okay, the entire amount of the first payment will be applied to the principal, okay, and then, yun. So, magiging utang natin 5,375 at December 31, 2023. Okay? So, ito. So, next, the next layer tayo, di ba? So, for the next layer, so December 31, 2024 na yung payment. Ayan. Okay, so ito. Tapos para sa interest, ito na, ma-address na natin. Paano yung compute ng interest? 5,375 multiplied by the discount rate. Ano yung discount rate dito? 10%. So madali ba yun? Yes. 537,500. As simple as that. And then, saan mo i-apply? Yung remainder, apply mo lang po sa principal. Okay na? And then, yan. So carrying value at the end of the period, or 2024, 4,412,000. 4,400,000. Tapos, para sa current portion, di ba yung ang total liability mo is 4,412,500. Yung current portion niyan, yung next year na deduction. Yung non-current portion, yung non-current portion, yung ating next year's carrying up. Next year's carrying up. So, ito po yun. Pakita natin. So, same process. So, yung sa 4,412,500, 105,850, yan yung current portion. 335,3750, ito naman yung non-current portion. Nasusundan? Okay, so yan ha. Okay, tapos ang ganito yung magiging itsura niyan. Tapos, kung itutuloy pa yan, dapat po 1,000,000 yan, guaranteed residual value. Kasi pagka ibabalik yung asset, debit, lease liability, credit RO yung asset at 1,000,000. Nasundan? So, ganyan magiging itsura. Okay po? Sige, so, eto na. So, ito, last problem na. Last problem. Pero, sagutin lang natin yung mga requirements for problem number 3. So, delta, bravo, and okay na? Next, last problem. Sige, ikaw to muna. Okay? Anong magiging sagot mo? Dapat kaya-kaya mo na to. Kasi, diba? Madali-madali para sa iyo. So, ano lang tatandaan ko? Paano ang tamang way ng pag-deduction? Ayan. Sige. So, ito, last problem naman. Okay. So, ano hinanap sa atin? What amount? Diba? What amount should be recognized as depreciation? Depreciation list. Buti na lang kung concepts yung pinag-uusapan. Medyo clear, di ba? Sige, so, ayan. Okay ba tayo? Okay ba yung ano? Wala kasi yung nilog out ko yung sa okay, para siguro para hindi na rin makiagaw sa Rayo admin natin ito sa Zoom. Okay ba tayo? Hindi ko na nakikita sa Facebook. Okay. Kindly chat naman kung okay. Vale, ang last problem naman na. So, ayun. So, the entity accounted for the acquisition. The entity accounted for the acquisition as finance lease for 5.9 million, which included a 400,000 residual value guarantee at the end of the lease. The asset shall revert back to the lessor. It is estimated that the fair value of the asset at the end of the year, 12 useful life, would be 500,000. Okay? O yun. So, ang lang naman dito palagi ang tanungin mo lang yung sarili mo, di ba? Meron po bang transfer of ownership? Okay, wala. Meron po bang purchase option that is reasonably certain to be exercised? Sa problem na to, wala. Okay? So, kung wala, check mo na lang. May guaranteed residual value ba? If yes, ayun, i-consider mo siya. Diba? So, ayun. Magkano magiging deficit natin? So, kinapitalize yung asset at 5.9. Okay, kinapitalize yung asset at 5.9. Okay? So, and then, uh, if receivable value na computing for your depreciation. Okay? Huwag mong pansinin ngayon 100. Kasi yung 500, yung gagamitin sana. Okay? Kung may transfer of ownership, may purchase option. Ano? Okay. So, yan. So, depreciation natin would be 10 years. Depreciation would be 50,000. Nasundan mo siya. Yan yung ating depreciation. So, answer po would be letter D. Kaya nasusunod. Ayan. So, yung ating kailang tapos nung nagsosolve na nag-illustrate nagloko yung internet connection. Okay. Tingin ko sa end talaga siya. So, kasi bumibitaw ako sa Zoom. Okay, so tensya na. Ayan. So anyway, share screen ko. Okay. Uh, ko lang na mag-load ulit. Bumibitaw no? Kailan pa Ayan. Parang pagka nag-share screen ako, doon ano. Sige, sige. Ayan. So, sige. Ah, nakita ba yung ano, yung ito. Sige, coordinate lang ako saglit sa team. Ha? Ayan. Ayun. Ito na. Yon, nag-load na rin sa wakas. Parang pagka nag-share screen ako, doon bumibitaw yung sa Zoom. Ano. So, ito po, nakita niyo po ba yung chapter, ay yung problem number 4. So, na-solve naman na natin siya, no? So, ayun. So, yan yung ano, yan yung last problem natin. So, ito ang concept niya kung paano yung pag-differentiate. Okay? So, sige. So that would be the end ating ano ng ating discussion and illustration ng concepts. Okay? So, pagka ano pagka may tanong, feel free to ask. Okay? Tapos try natin i-address natin dito sa sa Facebook. So parang may difference lang na mga few seconds. Eh. Okay? So meron pa naman tayong few minutes na pwedeng gamitin. Yan. So tapos try natin siguro within a couple of months or siguro sa next na pagka nag-invite, pagka na-schedule ulit tayo sa ano sa pa-webinar o yung books of lesson naman yung pag-usapan natin. Ano? So, see. Ayan. So, sige. So, so, ayan. Pagka natutuhan yung bandang dulo, nagka-problema pa sa internet. Ayan. So, mukhang ano naman, ah, mukhang wala namang mga concerns, ano? So, ito, siguro po, in closing, ayan, in closing, ito. So, in closing po, basta pagka may tanong kayo later on, or halimbawa, okay, pagka may mga topic yan, okay? Ano pa? In closing, ito, isa sa mga pinaka, ah, parang laging nagpapaalala sa akin na na lahat kaya nating magawa, di ba? Lahat ng gustuin natin, okay, so reviews, nagdududa pa kung magte-take ba ng undergrad natin sa mga courses nila, ayan, kaya bang ipasa yan? Ang sagot, yes, kaya-kaya. So sabi nga, di ba, for with him, nothing shall be impossible. Okay? So gawin lang natin yung part natin. Okay? Gawin mo lahat ng kaya mong gawin para po ma-attain mo yung objective mo. And I believe, okay, everything will fall into its proper places. Nasusundan po ba? Okay? Will fall into its proper place. Okay? So, ayun. So, hopefully, may natutuhan tayo, ha? So, pasensya na dun sa bandang dulo. Parang nagkakaroon ng problema yung internet. Ayan. So, ayun. So, guys, okay, maraming salamat sa inyo. So, sana natuto tayo kahit na papaano. Ha? Sige. So, good night everyone. Okay. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Paalam.